Every woman knows that a guy who goes on a date with them wants to sleep with them.
Well, women really are the gatekeepers to sex.
Absolutely.
In most cases, right?
100%. Yeah.
And slow burns can be healthier as well, because I do think sometimes if you meet someone and you're like, the adrenaline's all over the place, like chemistry often is insecurity.
If all women said, hey, we're not being physically intimate with a guy unless he's in a committed relationship with us, every guy would then commit to woman.
If I literally was like, I haven't had any in ages, I want to have some sex with someone I trust, do you want to come round? I think almost all men, if they were single, would do that. But that doesn't mean they're not a true friend.
Yo guys, welcome back to another episode on my channel. I'm sitting in this spot, which means I've got a great conversation lined up for you today. You know, on this channel, we love to talk about all things dating, relationships, and seeing what we can do to attract the kind of person we want. So without further ado, please welcome Amy to the show. Amy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I love the setup. It's brilliant.
I appreciate it. Thank you. You came very color prepared. It's like she knew she was coming with the green, with the gray, dash of pink in there. We love that. We love that.
We'll try not to do, I mean, you're in black and you look lovely in black.
Uniform.
But fair enough. But sometimes black can be, I feel like color can represent your personality a bit, right? So I would have gone brighter, but because of the time of year, it just felt a little bit too out there.
It's like more moody, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I always love to jump straight in. So first, tell us your age or your age range, asking a lady her age. And then something a guy should know about you if he was going to take you on a date.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to deliberately be a bit ambiguous and say I'm in my mid-30s.
Okay.
And a guy should know if they take me on a date that I don't drink alcohol. I have always been teetotal. I've never tried alcohol.
Wow.
And it is not an issue for me at all. Every single person I've dated drinks alcohol and I'm fine with that. All my family drink alcohol, I'm fine with it. But sometimes it's more of an issue for them than it is for me. So I feel like I'd probably put it out there straight away, because if a guy wanted to take me on a date, they'd probably want to go for drinks. And even though I don't mind that, and I go to pubs and clubs all the time, I feel like they might be a bit shocked. So if they knew it in advance, then they might plan a different sort of date, or they might just sort of be prepared that they're not going to get me drunk and get whatever they want from that.
Yeah, that is so interesting, because I guess when you say, oh, I want to go for drinks, you're like, oh, the drinking is just an excuse for us to just get to know each other, right? So it doesn't actually matter what kind of drinks you
100%.
have, you would think.
But I think people feel relaxed if they're having a drink, and maybe sometimes feel a bit intimidated if they think, oh, if I have a few drinks and she doesn't drink at all, is the dynamic going to be different? And I think people feel you're going to relax more if you've had a few drinks, which I appreciate. So it can just make them a little bit more apprehensive, I think. I just like to make them feel relaxed and say, it's okay, you can drink and I'm not going to judge you, and I'm not going to try and get loads of secrets out of you when you're drunk either. Do you know what I mean?
How often is that where people go on dates and they rely on alcohol to make them feel comfortable and more relaxed in that environment, as opposed to just connecting with the person naturally?
I think especially in British culture, a lot. I feel like when I've spoken to American guys, they actually are a lot more open to the idea of not drinking. But I feel like it's just ingrained in us in the UK, and I'm half Irish as well, so it's definitely an Irish culture.
Yeah, of course.
That that drinking is just what you do if there is a celebration, a commiseration, anything. So alcohol is the go-to.
Yeah, of course.
And I feel very comfortable around alcohol. I'm half Irish, so I grew up with alcohol, being around at every birthday party, every celebration.
Yeah.
And I also think, if I'm completely honest, because I'm the only person I know closely that doesn't drink. So all my friends drink, my little sister drinks. And if we are going out and they say, oh, I'm not going to drink tonight, I probably sometimes feel a little bit disappointed, because I think, oh, so you're not going to fully embrace the evening. Because I know when they do say they're going to have a drink, they fully relax and they fully go for it. Yeah. So I do understand why people feel like, oh no, she's not going to be fully in the mood. But because I've never drank, all my friends, like even last night I was out with some friends that I've been friends with for like 20 years. They know that I still will be the first on the dance floor and I still have a good time. So for them, it's a non-issue.
Yes.
But for new people, it can take a little bit to get their head around.
Yeah. And for you, where did this decision come from that I'm not even going to try alcohol? Because it's different if, you're like, oh, I tried drinking and stuff and I just had some bad experiences. I've just decided to stay away from it. But for you to be like, I'm not even going to try it. Where does that come from?
Do you know what? I feel like I have such a disappointing story, because I'd love to be like, oh, I tried it once and then I got naked and arrested and then never again.
Yeah.
Because I've literally never done it. It was when I was growing up, alcohol was very freely available in our house. We weren't a big drinking household, but it was never taboo. So when my friends, we started going house parties and people were like, oh, I'm going to raid my mum's alcohol cupboard.
Yeah.
One, I knew my mum would absolutely murder me if I stole anything from any cupboard in the house. So one, the fear. But also two, it wasn't like, oh, we're adults now, we can drink, because it was so freely available. So when I had sleepovers, once I was like over 16 or whatever, my mum would sometimes say, oh, if anyone wants to have a little drink, like feel free. And I'd be like, Mum, you're so embarrassing. Like, shut up. So it was a good tactic from her because it didn't make alcohol taboo. Then when we so that was house parties. And then a lot of my friends at house parties would get sick from alcohol, which is completely normal when you're like 17.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to look after them really. I thought I don't want to get sick myself. I'd rather make sure they were okay.
Yeah.
Then we started going clubbing and we used to get the night bus home.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought I do not want to navigate trying to get a night bus if I'm drunk. So like I'll stay sober so I can make sure I can get home safe.
Yeah.
Then I went to university and everyone at university was like, oh my God, there's this girl that doesn't drink. And it became such a big thing that I didn't want to be the evening entertainment. Do you know what I mean? Like people would buy me alcohol and I wouldn't drink it because I was like, the reason I'm not drinking isn't because I can't afford it. It's because I don't want to do it. And the more people pressured me to do it, the more I was like, no, I'm going to stick to my guns. And it actually meant I could go out the most at university. So I went out on every night out because I wasn't hungover the next day. I wasn't getting through my student loan on alcohol. Like I literally, going out would literally be, wasn't even a fee to get in, just the taxi home. That'd literally be it. I'd be on tap waters for the rest of the time. And then once you've left university and you've not drank, that kind of became my thing. I just don't do it.
Yeah.
It's healthier not to. And now it's really accepted. Like I feel like now it's not that taboo to say you don't drink.
Yeah.
But back when I was younger, like I say, it was really like a big thing. Like people were very, very surprised.
Yeah, for sure. So interesting. Because a lot of the time, you know, especially people have experiences when they're younger, they have their reckless, not life-threatening, but like reckless decisions from drinking, and then they go, okay, yeah, like I'm off it. But for someone where you're like, oh, I've not even tried it, and you have no interest in trying it, that is definitely interesting. Let's go into dating and everything like that. What do you think is something that many women look for today that they're struggling to find?
I think honesty.
Okay.
When I was younger, and you'd have said to me, what top 5 things would you like in your perfect guy? I wouldn't even put honesty on there because I would have expected it. I'd have assumed that people are going to enter with an honest heart to a degree. You know, you always warned as a young girl, like, be careful, some men are after only one thing. But essentially, I thought the bulk of men would be very honest. But I think now, because of dating apps and the way that you're not exclusive, you know, until you've had the conversation and the way the landscape's changed. Now, I feel like you know, if I was to say, oh, but I only thought he was talking to me, I only thought he was seeing me, people would be like, oh, that was a bit silly, you're a bit naive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Like, I feel like 10 years ago, that would have been silly or naive. They would have been the wrong one. Whereas now the tables have turned. And if you've entered it with honesty yourself, it's almost like you've been a little bit, too naive. So I think we just want men that are single when they say they're single.
Yeah.
Because the term single has so many interpretations now. They might just mean I don't have an actual girlfriend. That doesn't mean they're not sleeping with multiple people or taking multiple people out.
Very true.
But I would assume if they said they were single, that they were solo, they were, you know, it was just them. So
interesting. So if you've been on a couple of dates with a guy, would you then no longer say you're single?
I still seeing someone like, that's a really good point. Yeah, I'd say, I'm dating someone and I wouldn't be dating anyone else. That's also because I think, if I'm completely honest, it's hard for me to find even one person I like. So I can't really imagine there being 2. Whereas I feel like men, not all men, but they might at the early stages want to sort of suss things out. And I absolutely get, I'm not saying on date 2 we need to get married. But I would feel a bit uncomfortable if I knew we had a great date. I went home twirling my hair like, oh my God, we had the best time. And then the next day he's going out with somebody else. I think I would be a bit miffed by that.
Do you think, but it's, you know, women do that too, right?
Yeah, but well, people do it all the time now because I think the landscape's changed and dating apps have made it seem like, you know, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I have been burnt by that. I was in a talking stage with someone and it was during the pandemic and they're in different countries and couldn't see each other. I mean, it all sounds very silly, but I was only interested in them. And I kind of knew deep down they're probably talking to other people. And people would say to me, you should be talking to other people. Don't put it all into one person. But I don't think that would have been the advice maybe 10 years ago. But I feel like now, almost to protect ourselves, everybody's keeping their options open. But if we're all keeping our options open, then we're not finding happiness. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone's so scared of getting burnt first that they're trying to do the burning. Yeah,
I think when it comes to putting your eggs in one basket, I think so long as it's the expectation you have on the other person. That's where the burn actually comes, right? So if you go, okay, I know I'm the kind of person that I only date one person at a time, right? And I'm seeing this guy, I want to see where it goes. If you don't, unless you have a conversation, not having that expectation that he works the same way unless you've had that conversation that he tells you. And then you can decide for yourself if, okay, you're willing to accept that, right? Like I'm willing to date a guy where, okay, even if maybe he does go on a date with me a few times, he's still open to going on a date with someone else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the burn comes from the expectation, because a lot of the time when people will go, okay, I'm not gonna put all my eggs in one basket, it's because they're like, okay, well, if this doesn't work out, then I've got this person or this person or this person. It's like as backups.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. But at what stage do you think you're the backup? Like
You just don't know.
Because you're absolutely right. Like, and also it's like I would only want to date one person. I would hope they're only talking to one person. But I've got some really good girlfriends who are so kind, got good hearts, but they would multiply date. And it doesn't mean they're bad people. It's just a different approach.
Yes.
So therefore, they maybe be a little bit less hurt if they found out someone was dating multiple times, because they're also of that sort of cut the same way.
Very true.
So I appreciate that. But when you say you have to be clear to them, like, are they multiply dating, or make it the expectation more known early on? Realistically, as a woman, at what point do I say, oh, are you talking to other girls too? Just to be clear, are you going on other dates? Because one, they might lie, just even knee-jerk reaction. They might be like, oh, no, I'm not. And then even think, oh, I shouldn't have said that, but
True.
I didn't want to seem like the bad guy.
True.
Therefore, then when you do find out they've dated multiple people, it's going to be deceit. It's going to become a bigger thing than it was maybe intended to.
Yes.
But if I ask them and they go, oh, yeah, just so you know, I am talking to other people. If I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that, does that not make me feel like, I don't know, how would a guy think about that? Would they not think like, oh, she's really cool with like being an option?
So I think everybody assumes, and I always say this, until you've had the talk about being exclusive, most people assume that you're open to dating other people, because especially you should with guys, because they probably are.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I completely agree now, but I think
Yeah.
5 years ago I'd have been very shocked. But now
Yeah.
it's part of it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I don't think you need to ask that question. I think you should just always approach it assuming that they are open to dating someone else, until you have that conversation of, are we exclusive? Is this exclusive?
Yeah.
Right. And that's going to be a bit further down the line. Now you can ask him like, hey, I just want to know, like, are you dating other people? Right. And sure, it's going to be in his own interest to not tell you that he is.
Exactly.
Right. But if it's interesting though, because I get what you say about honesty. Right. And I'm an advocate for that, regardless of whether it's nice, honest, like if the truth is nice to take, or if it's a bitter truth, that's kind of why we're here, right? Why I make this content. But I'm just saying what a lot of guys say. They feel that some women can't handle the transparency.
Yeah.
The full honesty. So for example, because let's say you are dating a guy, right? Let's say you've been on a few dates, and maybe he's gone on a few dates with a couple of other women, but actually he's really interested in building something with you, right? And let's say you've been dating for a month, and he's like, yeah, actually, Amy is the person that, I'm really enjoying, is the person I'm prioritizing. I may still hang out with one or two other girls, right? Just to see, but she's actually who my priority is. And then you ask him, hey, you dating anyone else? And then he goes, yeah, I've been on a few dates with other people. And then let's say that ruins it for you.
Yeah, which honestly, I think it would a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then in that sense, it's like, if you didn't ask, or if you didn't know that could have become a relationship and you wouldn't have been none the wiser.
But you know what? It would ruin it for me in the fact that I'd probably do poker face, like, okay. And then like go home, have a bit of a cry and be like, oh my God. But long term, I wouldn't necessarily end it with him. Do you know why? Because I would think, wow, this guy is obscenely honest, like almost disarmingly honest. That stands him in good stead as a long-term partner, because the easy thing to do would be to lie.
Very true.
I would be stung, I would be hurt, because we're all human. Men do this as much as women. You get carried away. Once you actually like someone and you're texting, smiling on your phone all night, it's not nice to think then the next day they met up with someone else. So
of course
it would sting a lot, but I think realistically, once I'd spoke to my ego a bit and, I don't know, mourned it a little bit, the innocence of the beginning, then maybe I would think, right, okay, I really respect how openly honest he's been.
Sure. But then why ask the question?
Because I know that I don't have the capacity to multiply date.
But that's okay though. You don't have to.
But I also feel a bit irked, the power dynamic, that he might know that about me, because obviously...
But you don't have to tell him that.
No, you don't. But then early stages is good to be super honest, right? Because I don't necessarily want to rope somebody in with a pretense of who I am. Like, I could easily play the game. women know what men would want, what the correct answer is to say, how to sound like the cool girl, the pick-me girl. We can all do that. But where is that going to get you? That's just going to get somebody to fall for who you aren't really. Like, do you know what I mean? Fall for a side of you or a pretense of you. So therefore, I'd probably rather be honest quite quick, not the first meeting, but, you know, a month in, you're saying. I'd quite like to be honest and be like, okay, yeah, I don't really multiply date. I don't do this. And think, oh, he might like the fact that he's quite special to even get a chance to go on a date with me. But then if he knows, she's good, she's not seeing anybody else, I'll still have my fun with the other girls. It's not the nicest situation for a woman to be in, is it?
I get that. And this isn't saying that you should be anyone that you're not, but part of dating is a dance. Right?
Yeah.
And part of the building the chemistry, the tension is having a level of mystery and curiosity. So it's not saying you have to say something that's not true, but you also don't have to disclose.
No, you don't.
So like, for example, right? Like if a guy goes on a date with you, it's like, hey, just so you know, like I really want to have sex with you. He's being honest, because every guy who goes on a date with you wants to have sex with you, right?
And I would respect a guy
but you would be like,
that.
whoa, that's a bit...
Yeah.
That's something like, okay, intuitively I kind of know.
Some women might be cool with that, but I wouldn't be. But,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But every woman knows that.
Yeah.
Every woman knows that a guy who goes on a date with them wants to sleep with them.
Well, women really are the gatekeepers to sex.
Absolutely.
In most cases, right?
100%. Yeah. But if a guy just comes out and says that, he's being open and transparent, but it ruins the playfulness.
Yes,
it ruins
agreed.
the dance of dating. Does that make sense?
And it might seem a little bit disrespectful as well. It's good to be honest. And as I say, I can't speak for other women that are cool with that, and that's absolutely their prerogative.
Yeah.
So maybe if he was to say that straight away to a woman that also wanted that, everybody knows, and they don't have to do the dance and everyone gets their hopes up that it's more than it is.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's being a gentleman to not openly say I want to have sex with you. I kind of feel like if they want date 2, then they want to have sex with you.
So this is what I'm saying, right? I presume most women know that when a guy goes on a date with them, that he wants to have sex with her.
Even if
it doesn't have to be
the date doesn't go well.
Even if it doesn't go well,
he would still have
probably
sex with her.
would.
Yeah.
100%, right? So that's something that's not necessarily disclosed. Even if, for example, if it's like the third date, he's like, hey, do you want to come back to mine for like a nightcap or something? Even if she knows, okay, I know that he probably wants to have sex, he might try it with me, etc. Right? Even though she knows that, right? Him outright just saying it, hey, do you want to come back to mine? Because I'm probably going to try and have sex with you. I hope you say yes or something. Yeah. Right? That just ruins the tension building. It ruins all of that, right? Yeah. So when it comes to a guy being open to dating other women, and this is why I always say, until you've had the talk of being exclusive, just assume, this is one of those things, just presume that he's open to dating someone else. Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean that he is going to. That doesn't necessarily mean that he isn't going to.
No, I completely agree
with
you.
But I think it's good to presume that.
But I think that was a lesson I've learned, as the landscape has changed of dating. Sure, I feel like 10 years ago, if we'd have said that, people would have been a lot more surprised. Like, I feel like even my own dating, it followed much more of a linear pattern where I met someone, they liked me, I liked them, or I hope they're out tonight, they hope I'm out tonight. Your friends even start saying, I think you like each other. After the first kiss, you're almost boyfriend, girlfriend. It's just followed that. It was just like, of course we are. Like, we both like each other. Brilliant. Yeah. Whereas now it is, you have to have, everyone's got their guard up and you have to be a lot more aware that they could be speaking to other people, which in itself is sometimes quite sad, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't disagree that it's not sad, but I think people benefit from this at different points in their journey.
Yes, agreed.
So men tend to really benefit from that if they're dating to for something serious and settle down, because more often than not, women are, when they're dating, they look for something serious.
Agreed, yeah.
But women really benefit when they're just looking to explore. And when I say have fun, I don't mean necessarily just sleep with a bunch of guys, although sure, some might do that. But just explore life, explore who she connects with, explore the kind of guys she can meet with. And that really plays in the benefit for her over the guy who isn't, the 22-year-old girl. She can go on the date with the hotshot 30-year-old lawyer, right? The producer from
Don't do it,
Paris.
22-year-old girl.
It happens though, right?
No, of course it does. What I mean? Yeah.
As opposed to, and she can still go on a date with the other 22-year-old guy in her class who, maybe can take her to Nando's or something, but he still lives at home. He's just graduated, so he hasn't got a job or anything. So that really plays into her benefit, being able to date multiple people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it benefits different people depending what journey that they're at.
No, I agree. But I think in an ideal world where emotions weren't so we weren't so vulnerable emotionally. So it would be lovely if you could go on lots of dates. I feel like people that have been married for years, like I'm talking like 10, 20 years, they look back at the dating process and they're always a little bit jealous. They're like, oh, it's lovely the early stages of dating. Like you get wined and dined and you get this person and that person. And that all sounds lovely and rosy.
Yeah.
But when you're actually in it, it's so much harder because, I mean, I'm just talking for myself, but also I've consoled a lot of girls that are crying. I've also consoled a lot of guys that won't cry, but they, you know, they get a bit, yes, cool, yeah, I didn't like her anyway. And I'm like, yeah, you did. That's why you're putting up this front. But because when you actually do meet somebody that you like, a lot of people are using other people as a distraction. I think if you really sat people down and said, oh, you're multiply dating, are you having loads of fun? I would be surprised how many women go, yeah, it's really fun doing this. I think most would say, well, I went on a date with guy B because guy A hasn't been calling me for a while. And now like there's guy C and like he's really good on paper. Like he's got a good job. He's really kind. I don't really fancy him, but so I'm going to have fun with guy D. And like you might do that, but I don't know if it's as fun as it could seem. Although I do think some people, and again, I think a lot of Americans have this approach to dating. And as in the UK, we are approaching more of an Americanized approach to it. They also just see dating as socializing. So they might go on a date to just get to know somebody and to understand, like you say, if you go on a date with a lawyer, you find out loads about that world that's so different to yours.
I think that's for the women, not the men.
Well, men probably want to sleep with them as well. But yeah, okay. But
because the men are usually paying.
Yeah.
So I'm not out here to socialize. Like I'm interested. If I'm here to socialize, I'm not paying for you.
Yeah, true. Okay,
you know
true.
I mean?
But it would be a lovely way to say, oh, you can get to know those different people in a short space of time.
True.
A one-off dinner, ask all these questions, hear a different perspective on life, great. But because emotions are involved where people feel either rejected or they start getting their hopes up if there is a connection, or you get carried away thinking like, oh, where could this go? It's harder to just keep it as just trying things out. Like I think that's a bit naive.
Yeah, but I think also interesting, but if a girl's going on dates just to socialize, she's kind of being dishonest.
Well,
because the guy's going there because like, oh, I think there's romantic potential here. But she's going there like, nah, I'm just here just to socialize.
No, but I think rather than it just fully socializing as in like the same as like joining a youth club or something, it's more like if you go to a different country, they might be like, oh, let's go on some dates. Like if it leads to something amazing, but if it doesn't, okay, I've just got to know some people. But I don't think most people can do that. I think that, like off your point of what you were saying, if it's just to get to know different people, wonderful. But that is, if we actually fancy somebody, then it's kind of like the rule book goes out the window, right? If you actually like someone, you can sit to yourself and say, oh, right, I won't get too carried away and I'll date other people. But in the back of your mind, you're hoping that the guy you like is going to text you at the end of that date. And if the date goes bad, say you go on another date with multiple people, the guy you like 50% might be elevated now suddenly to 70% if you go on a bad date with someone else. Because you go on a bad date, you come home, you're like, oh my God, he wasn't funny, he wasn't cool, like guy A. And then guy A texts you, and then your adrenaline goes up, oh my God, he texts me. And then suddenly he's put on a pedestal because the other guys haven't been that great.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And that's quite dangerous, really, because he's going on a pedestal through no credit of his own, just because other people have been bad.
It is credit. It's more that she's realizing what he brought to her was actually some value that other guys weren't bringing.
Or is it just luck that some of the guys she went out with weren't that great, didn't have much going for them? And had she gone out with really amazing guys from a little bit of luck, then it would have been a more even race with guy A.
Well, I think that if somebody brings good qualities to you, then that should always be appreciated, regardless if you went out with people who were great or not.
Yeah.
If she went out with people that made her appreciate those good qualities, I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, okay, that's if it works well that the guys with the good quality, with that's going on a pedestal is coming across is a good person.
Yeah, she's like, oh wow, like actually what he did was actually great, because a lot of people don't do that.
But is the bar really low because so many people are so awful that like it's not even that hard for that guy to shine because the bar's so low now?
I see what you're saying, but ultimately women set the bar.
Elaborate.
So the things that men do, and okay, we know that in the initial pursuit is the man pursuing the woman initially, right?
Yeah.
Because she's the gatekeeper for sex, and guys approach because like, I'm attracted to you, I'd be interested in being physical with you. If there's a connection personality-wise, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So if women, for example, I'm just using an example.
Yeah.
If all women said, hey, we're not being physically intimate with a guy unless he's in a committed relationship with us. Every guy would then commit to woman.
Yeah, no, I would love this. I would love it if that happened. However,
that's what I mean. Women
yeah.
set the bar.
Yeah, okay. And it's really nice talking to you because it reminds me of how I used to be. You know, when you're like, this is how it should be. And then you get so jaded after so long. You're like, oh, actually, we're just forgetting the basics. So I think that would be lovely because then guys would have to, like, they'd realize I'm not getting anywhere being a player because if girls aren't playing, there's no one to play. Do you know what I mean? So they'd have to only really look for commitment. However, would some guys who are just so desperate for sex commit to somebody so they can get sex and not really be that happy? And then women...
He would be happy. He'd be so happy.
For how long though? So let's say like, because that's when people start settling, isn't it? That's also like...
This word settling though.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. But men used to marry and commit to women so they would have regular sexual intimacy. That used to be the reason.
But for how long are they realistically getting that? Like they might... because there was more of a stigma of divorce and like marriage and kids outside marriage, there was a lot more external pressures, financial pressures. Women didn't have the freedom. Women couldn't even have bank accounts up till like 50 years ago or something.
Very true.
So it kind of was, I think that people were settling and thinking, like, if you're a guy that maybe doesn't get that much female attention, you might be like, wow, this girl wants to have regular sex with me. Amazing. I'll marry her.
Yes.
And then the woman might be like, oh, I'm getting to a certain age and everyone's putting pressure on me that I should get married. And a couple of guys I liked weren't interested. Oh, this guy's interested. I'll marry him. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to a happy marriage.
Well, I think happiness is something you build together.
Okay.
I think happiness is something you build together. I think whether you have a good, healthy relationship is not actually determinant on how much you technically love each other, though that is very important, but it's the commitment to the relationship and doing what's right for the relationship, the commitment to having patience and forgiveness, but also the commitment to taking accountability and growing yourself in the areas that you need to work on. If two people in a relationship have those three qualities, they'll have a very happy, healthy relationship. Because here's the thing, the irony is the happiest marriages, and this statistically, globally, the happiest marriages are arranged marriages.
Wow.
Those are the happiest marriages today. And I think a big reason of that is because the mindset and approach to when you have an arranged marriage, right? In like either like, you know, in South Asian communities or African communities, etc., is it's not that, oh, I'm marrying this person because they're the perfect person. Is there's a purpose to the commitment that we're making to each other, right? And we know we're together, so we have to make the commitment to make this work.
Well, the grass is greener where you water it. Right?
Exactly.
So, and I would say in a lot of them Western cultures where arranged marriage isn't so popular, there's always the expectation that you can get out of jail card. Like you can get divorced or like say dating apps. I feel like there's a lot of older people who feel like they missed out on dating apps and they're like, oh, I never got to have that fun. And I would say it isn't that fun. But I think also look at like Instagram, like how many men saw like really beautiful women regularly? You wouldn't, if you, before social media existed, you would think your woman was really beautiful. And maybe if she made an effort for a night out, be like, wow, she's incredible. But now a guy can just wake up, pick his phone up, flick through filtered images, you know, great lighting, surgery, all the rest of it, and think, oh, there's loads of beautiful women out there. And aesthetically, I think a real beautiful woman is inside. But I just think all of that contributes to people thinking like, rather than do the hard work in the marriage, I'll just get out and have fun outside the marriage.
I hear that, but it is only a very small percentage of men who actually have the advantage to date these very gorgeous women. Because most men actually struggle. It's
naivety. They'll think they've got loads of options, and then give them a year solo, and they'll come running back to the woman that was good to them. Like give them a month. Actually, they'll probably be like, "Oh, it was so much better at home."
I actually think it's the opposite. Though. I think it's the opposite.
In what way?
I don't think many men think they have a lot of options. In fact, I think they're experiencing not having the options, but I think a lot of women do. And I think the reason I think a lot of women do is because it's easier for women to get a lot of sexual attention, but they mistake that for real intention. So for example, they'll think, oh, if a girl's like on Instagram, so oh my gosh, 20 guys slid into my DMs this month.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time they'll think, oh, like they're all open to getting to know me, potentially have a relationship. And it's like, oh, she thinks she's got 20 options for potential relationship. But out of those 20 guys, 15 of them are just saying, hey, I'm just down to have fun.
Well, I think most girls are wise to feel like 1% of those men might be decent. Because do you know what? Sometimes those men openly have a profile picture, which is them, I'm assuming, their wife and their kids. Like the men that slide in, it's not who other men think it is. So men, I think, always think women have loads of options, and then that's when they start getting jealous because they think, oh, all men fancy her and they don't like, you know, their girl going to the club or dressed in a certain way, or, oh, all the men want to sleep with you. But I feel like the men that are most jealous are the ones who they are always looking at other women in a sexual way. So they therefore assume that all men are doing that. I'm not saying men don't. I'm not a man, and I sometimes see too much of the good in men. But I think the most jealous men are the ones who themselves have a bit of a wandering eye, even if they don't act on it, and therefore they see every other man as a predator because they're a bit of a predator, and therefore they get more jealous and reflect that onto their woman, and you know they get jealous of the attention she's getting, even though as a woman, we could get loads of attention, but it means nothing. Like if I get a compliment from a female, that means 10 million times more than from a man every day of the week, even if it's on the way I look, not just on personality, but even if it's like, oh my God, girl, I love your shoes. Oh, you've got lovely hair. I love how you do eye makeup. That mean way more than a guy going, oh yeah, she's really beautiful. And they don't usually use the word beautiful. Sure. And that would be a tip I would say, use the word beautiful because it means so much more. But yeah, I think it's, men are thinking that we're out here loving all the attention or, you know, got all these options. But I think we're getting wise that it's quality over quantity.
Yeah, I think when I say options, I don't mean necessarily it's the men that women actually want, but it's men willing to do things and invest in her, whether she wants to reciprocate that or not.
Yeah.
Because you literally just said it yourself, right? You're like, oh, well, some people, and it's most likely women, they go on dates to be social.
Yeah.
Right? The only reason they can go on dates and use it to be social is because men are willing to pursue them.
But do you not think, and I've been single for 5 years now, right? And a lot of people will tell me to go on dates, because they've got my best interests at heart. My female friends will say, just go. You never know. You might, just get to know somebody.
Yeah.
So as women, we encourage other women to do it in a social way, particularly women in relationships encourage their single friends to do it in a social way. Whereas my friends that are also in the dating pool will be like, oh God, I can see why, if I text them saying, oh, I haven't got the energy to go on this date tonight, I don't even really know if I'm going to like this guy. My single friends will probably be like, yeah, no, I totally hear you. Like, why don't you, do you want to just meet me tonight? Whereas my married friends or friends in relationship go, no, you've got to go. You've got to try. You've got to push yourself out there.
Yep.
So I think that's also the advice we're getting varies very much from if you're actually living it and realizing that, it's easy to focus on your comfort zone, isn't it? And if I want to have a nice evening, it's probably not going to be on a date. It's probably, for me, it's probably going to be with people that I know and love. However, if you always take that philosophy, you won't meet anyone new.
If you're loving this episode and these kinds of conversations, then I want to give you something. We recently launched the Kits Angels community. This is a sisterhood for women who are tired of what the dating scene has given them and are ready to take their love lives to the next level. It's a space for you as a woman to not be alone in your journey to love, where we learn, talk, and share our experiences as part of a strong sisterhood, with some leadership and guidance from yours truly, of course. Not to mention never before seen videos from me on how I've led dozens of women to meeting great men. And so as a thank you for watching this episode, I'm giving you a month's membership completely complimentary on me. Just click the Kits Angels link below, and when you join the group, message me the code phrase Angels Podcast and I will pay for your membership. Now back to the episode.
Very true. I guess this is our last question. Is it not interesting that the people who are married in relationships
Are you going to say this?
are giving one certain advice, and then your single friends who probably want relationships are giving a certain advice?
Agreed. Although, and this isn't aimed at my married or in relationship friends,
Yep.
but I do think sometimes a lot of them have met people organically. So they didn't actually have to go on these dates, these set up dates per se. It was more, there's a bigger pool when you're younger, right? So you meet somebody when you're on nights out or house parties or friends of a friend. So they haven't actually gone through the process of a date. I think always...
As in they didn't date their partner before getting with them?
As in, they probably knew them a little bit first. So they might have met them at a wedding, and you have that, it's almost like a first date at a wedding already, right? Because you get chatting at the bar, you've been chatting for an hour. That to me is almost like a first date. Or they knew them in like a friendly capacity.
Right.
Whereas if you're encouraging me to go on a cold date where I've met somebody on an app or if someone set me up or whatever, that's a lot more intimidating. And I think because when people are in long-term relationships, they probably think, oh, it'd be exciting to meet a new man and have a chat, even if nothing comes of it. When you're actually doing it, you realize it's not as exciting as these people are
the novelty
thinking.
wears off.
There's no novelty. Because
it
also
wears off.
the married people forget the rejection that's involved a bit as well, I think. So like, it would be lovely to think you go on a date, mutually you're not interested in each other, but you still have a nice time. You say goodbye and that's the end of it, wrapped up in a nice bow, and then on to the next one. Realistically, either they like you and you don't like them, in which case I can only speak from my own experience. I feel a bit guilty because I'm like, oh no, he was so lovely, he ticked so many boxes. You might not want to tell your friends that because they'll like, be pushing you to go on a second or third date, but you just know it's not quite there. And then they might be like, oh, I had a lovely time, it's so nice to meet you. And then I think, oh my God, I feel so bad because they're so lovely, but I don't like them. So that makes me feel a bit sad. That wouldn't put me off dating, but it's still an outcome that's just not ideal. Or you like them more than they do, in which case that's also a little bit rubbish, isn't it? And it's like you say, men sometimes just want sex. So they might act like they love the first date. They might act like they love the second, third, fourth, fifth, however many times you're going to make them wait. And then you end up with somebody and you're like, oh, I really liked him. I thought it was going really well, but it wasn't. Or it might just be a bit bland and you're both sat there thinking, who goes to the toilet first and texts their friend saying, can you give me an emergency call? Like, I need to get out of this.
That's hilarious.
It's very rare that I think you're going to go on the date and be like, I had a lovely time. He had a lovely time. He's honest. I'm honest. Ta-da. Like, you know what I mean?
guess I think we're expecting too much from the first date though.
I think if you've got a lot going on in your life as well, it's harder to want to sacrifice an evening to do that.
Yeah, because I think it's like I think a lot of people are going on first dates expecting to meet this person, their life changed. And it's like even the people that you said were married, it wasn't like they went on a first date and then it's, oh my gosh, I knew it was the one.
Yeah.
It's a slow burn.
Yeah. And slow burns can be healthier as well, because
I
I
think
do think sometimes if you meet someone and you're like, the adrenaline's all over the place, like chemistry often is insecurity, right? So it's like, sometimes if you meet someone and you're like, and I really go off chemistry, like because I'm so content single, it takes a lot to make me want to move out of that zone, right? So therefore chemistry is such a big thing for me, probably more than a lot of my married friends who valued companionship and friendship, and he's got good qualities, he speaks nice of his family, like they probably don't. And that was also is also reflected in the jobs they go for. So I work in the media, which is almost gambling in itself. You have really strong highs, you have really low lows. It's very unstable, but you do it for the high payoff, right? And so the same with me, chemistry is very important to me when I'm meeting someone. But then sometimes chemistry is just that, like chemistry is going to be prolonged if that person's unreliable often. So it's kind of becomes like an addictive drug, doesn't it? If they text you loads for a few days, you're like, oh my God, it's going really well. And then they don't for a day and then they text again. Your head can know this is dangerous territory here. Like, why is he being inconsistent? But your heart's a bit like, oh, he text. Like, do you know what I mean? And so it's, chemistry can sometimes be actually where the fight or flight is going through your veins.
So when you say chemistry, I'm assuming you talk about physical chemistry, right? Like sexual chemistry? Like attraction, physical attraction.
But also for me, it's not like, I feel like I'm almost a little bit demisexual, which is a term I heard Talisa talk about recently on I'm a Celebrity, which is that looks are, and when girls say this, everyone rolls their eyes, but and sometimes some men, I've not heard men say it, but I'm sure they're out there, that looks aren't as important, it's more getting to know the person. So for me, yes, sexual chemistry, but not just purely like lust, it's like also like thinking they're really funny, like loving like maybe the way they talk about their passions. They might talk about something like, it's not purely like I want to get into bed with him, but it's like I want to be special to him.
Yeah, so it's basically a guy who comes across initially very exciting for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
Amy, I say this with love. But I think that is a big part that is restricting why you're not finding maybe what you're looking for. Because people who are in healthy relationships, they choose them because of the values and how they treat them. And a lot of women will say, actually, they'll be like, yeah, when I first met my husband, like I wasn't too fussed about him. And then we spent time and I was like, oh, he demonstrated how good of a man he was, how he treated me. I felt safe, seen and heard with him. And the reason I say this is because I think a lot of younger women especially, they prioritize the chemistry so much, have a bunch of bad experiences, right? Maybe even go through trauma, etc. And then they get to a certain point where it's like they just want a man to be good to them, but then the guy who was good to them is already married off to someone because somebody chose
She
him for the
valued
values
those.
that he has, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's the same with guys. Guys who are like, I'm just going to choose the most attractive girl, the girl I have the most chemistry with, but then she doesn't bring those values. And then wondering, why is every girl I'm choosing, she's just not what I'm looking for? I'm like, because you're choosing for the wrong reasons.
100%.
Does that make sense?
100%. I think it's sometimes easier to identify that in men. Like I sometimes see men get carried away because they're like, oh, look how gorgeous this girl I'm dating is. And I'm like, what else about her? They're like, oh, no, but she's really fit. And it's like, that's so frustrating. Whereas for women, like I said, more things contribute to that excitement.
Yes.
So that can sometimes make it more murky territory because you're getting excited by qualities they have, but they're not necessarily the reliable qualities. However, guys are very clever. So you're absolutely right in that there's a pattern if you're always going for chemistry and then getting hurt. And then eventually, are you just going to get exhausted of that and realize that there's other things that keep your your cortisol, your like at a nice stable level, and you get too old to be on this roller coaster and you think, I just need to actually like know where I stand with someone. But sometimes it's not always as black and white as like someone's really exciting, like he's like the jock and he's like all these great things going on and whatever. Sometimes they also can come across as very reliable because they're also after the end prize, which is sex. And if a man is only after one thing, then they're probably more likely to get dazzled by the shiny thing. Do you know what I mean? And there's probably sometimes no limits to what a man will do to try and get that, even if that is pretending to be someone they're not. And unfortunately, by the time you realise it, as a woman, you're in quite deep. And as women, we can be quite forgiving. And I mean, for myself, I analyse them. So, the reason he's doing this is because I know he's got a bit of a broken home, or he really struggles, he's short and therefore he's like insecure. And you make excuses for them. And this is how years of your life can get wasted, right? Because he's hooked you into a level of depth. You're trying to save him. But in the end, you're only hurting yourself.
True. But I think there's something else that can happen that is important to acknowledge. He can be reliable, consistent, all those good qualities. But it can happen where if he's maybe getting to know a few women, he's dating a few women, and then when he's decided, oh, this is the woman I want to pursue, if that woman isn't you, then it can seem, oh, he just used me for that point. That the things about him wasn't genuine. And it's not that those things weren't genuine, but just because the landscape is, if a woman's dating several guys, because every guy has been that guy where he's done the right thing for a girl and she just didn't like him.
Yeah.
She just didn't choose him. Do you know what I mean?
And then, but I think that makes them then damage more for the next guy. Do you know what I mean? It can be a bit of a cycle. Very few men are happy to be single, to reflect on that rejection and think, right, I'm going to like work on myself.
No, I disagree.
Really? I think men struggle being single way more than women.
No, what I mean is this, as in men do reflect on why they got rejected and then they work in the areas so they can be the person who's now dating multiple women and is doing the rejection, which is why that's what's happening now.
As in a lot of players were actually good guys that were hurt and now are trying to...
Of course.
Yeah.
So what I mean is this, here's the thing, right? You said about chemistry, right? Essentially what we're talking about is attraction triggers. The main attraction triggers for men is the looks.
Yeah.
For women, you're right, there's multiple. It could be looks, confidence, funny, intelligence, attraction triggers. Now, the attraction triggers do not say anything about a person's character or their intention. So a lot of guys' experience is when they're younger and they're like, they hear the girl that they like in class, I just want a guy who's nice to me, who's good to me, all that, who's just there for me. And he does that. And then she friend zones him, or she still ends up going with a different guy, etc. Then guys have two choices. They either continue being what they're being because that's what they're hearing from said girl or maybe a few girls, etc., and continue. And this is where guys can build resentment because it's like, I'm being what you want, but you're not choosing me.
Yeah.
Or they can take a page from, okay, what is it that she is actually choosing? Yeah. Like, what is it about this guy that she's actually choosing? And what guys learn is that, okay, it's not necessarily that a guy is nice, but that he is competent. It's not necessarily that he's there for her, but it's that he excites her. It's not necessarily that he is, has those deep, meaningful chats, but that he is funny and he can bring lightness to her life and excite her and those things. It's not that because, he opened the door for her. It's because he got in the gym and he's in great shape, right? So then the smart guys, so to speak, start investing in those areas, and then they start getting the results, and like, oh my
They
goodness,
start building themselves up, basically.
Yeah, but then they also start getting the results where they're like, wow, this is actually what women respond to.
Because when women say, oh, we want a nice guy, and then when there is a nice guy, they're like, oh no, it wasn't him.
Yeah,
it's
he's
not
boring.
really because the guy was nice. Like, you know, men will say like, oh, nice guys finish last. But if you actually
do.
bring a lot to the table and you're nice, we will put that on. We'll be like, oh my God, he's like really successful. He's funny. He's this, that, the other. And he's just so nice. We won't see that as a negative. Nice is just the word we use to cover up the fact that you're just not exciting.
Why do women say they want a nice guy if they know that's actually what they're trying to express?
Because nice is so open to interpretation. So nice, if it means we want someone who
misleading.
treats us, it is, right? Though it's such a bland word, like nice. Okay, it's not a strong word. If nice was a person, they'd just be sat in the corner like, I'm nice. They wouldn't be like, they wouldn't walk into the room and be like, I'm nice.
Yeah.
No, you walk into the room, you're Mr. Exciting, you're Mr. Alpha Male, you're Mr. Dominant, you're Mr. Charismatic.
Yes.
So if you're nice, as in you're kind to us, you're thoughtful, you're respectful, they're qualities we adore. They are top
From
of
the
the
man
list.
that you want.
From the man that you want. But
Right.
you need to...
That's what
if
they
it's
miss out, though.
Yeah, from the man you want. If you're just nice... My nan's nice. I don't want to, do anything with her. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, nice is just like, if you went out for a meal and it was nice, you're going to rush to go back to that restaurant? No.
I agree with you, but I think this is why guys get confused, or they're like, whenever they roll their eyes whenever they hear a woman say, I just want a guy who's nice, and they roll their eyes. Because it's like, the part you're missing out is the guy that you want is nice is the guy that you're attracted to. And the biggest issue with guys isn't that they're not nice, it's that they are not attractive to women. So when a guy's like, how do I get a woman? And woman's like, just be nice. He's like, well, I've been nice.
No.
That's not what it is. But it's like, okay, here, bro, this is why you're not getting the women, bro. You're still living at home. You haven't worked on your fitness. You're not that confident, right? And you don't have a passion for something that you can develop competency in. Also, maybe you need to work on being a bit more masculine so she feels safe with you, right?
Yes, that is so true. Masculine energy is so... it's not given as much appreciation as it should. I feel like it's started to become a bit of a TikTok trend talking about masculine energy, and then women just want to be in their feminine energy.
Yes.
And I do think there is a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes nice guys can fall into the almost feminine energy. Like we don't want to date a friend. So I have my friends who are nice. In fact, they're better than nice. But if you're nice, it's like you might feel safe around them. And that is actually really valuable as a woman, like especially as you get older, just feeling safe in a guy's company.
Of course.
But you need to be a bit of a provider as well. And I think if you were a nice provider, great. But if you're just nice, it's like you're beige, you're blending in the background.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I think I really loved what you said when you're like, right, you need to get down the gym, you need to, own your own place or not be at home with your parents or whatever. For me personally, those two qualities don't bother me. As in, like, and I know for a lot of women it will.
I'm just saying that as an example.
I agree. But and I think you're hit on something really accurate there, which is I'm not bothered too much if you're not in shape, or I'm not too bothered where you're living, but I want you to have a passion where these things are going to potentially change, particularly the living situation. So I love a guy that's disciplined. So if he said to me, I'm living at home, but I save X amount every month, or I'm studying and I'm going to do this, and you're actually doing a sacrifice in the here and now for the reward later on, that's incredibly attractive. That's a future I want to
success
be.
is attractive.
Yeah, I want to be part of that. And also it shows that you can sacrifice the instant pleasure for the long-term gain, which is loyalty in a relationship, right? Whereas a guy that maybe says, oh, I'm going to work in finance, even if he hates finance, but it gets me a flat near Canary Wharf. And on paper, he's got all these amazing qualities, but he's not really loving his life.
True, but
that,
then
to
the
me,
irony
is
is
like,
that guy is more likely to get women than the man doing his passion but lives at home and just
he
doing
might,
nothing.
but he might get women that are valuing stability over true love.
I think most women value stability though.
Over true love?
What is true love?
Like feeling like they're the one you want to be with.
No,
I don't believe in
it's a fairy
soulmates, but
tale,
like
Amy.
they're the one I want to be. No, because if you just wanted to go, most women could go out with someone just for stability. We'd have to really compromise our own happiness.
Well, I think a mistake people make is they think that a relationship is what's going to be responsible for their happiness.
Yeah, I agree. But also you said something earlier where you were like, I'm not getting what I'm looking for in a relationship, which is making the assumption that I'm looking for a relationship. Now it
True.
would be lovely, but there's definitely been stages of my life where I've been so content single, and I feel like men struggle to fully understand that. Because not just you, not you, by the way. I just
No,
mean
yeah, of
men in
course.
general.
Yeah.
When I say, "Oh yeah, I'm really happy single," either much older women or men do this sort of smile, like a sympathetic head tilt, like, "Oh, bless her," like she doesn't really mean it, but she's saying that of protecting herself. Whereas because most men aren't happy completely single, because if they had a good woman looking after them that was really hot that they couldn't wait to sleep with, they probably think that was a massive contributor to their happiness. I don't think it has to be a contributor to a lot of women's happiness. Not all women. I know a lot of women who are not happy single. In fact, I think it's probably more rare to be a happy single woman, but they still exist.
Yeah, I hear you. I think single for men, when a man says I'm happy to be single, and when a woman says I'm happy to be single, a lot of the time it means something slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
So for men, when he says I'm happy to be single, if he meets a woman that he would be in a relationship with, he would still choose to be single. For a lot of women, when they say I'm happy to be single, it's I've not met a man that I want to be in a relationship with, so I'm happy to wait until that happens. But if the man that you wanted to be in a relationship with came along, you would embrace it.
Yeah.
Whereas for guys, it's
do you
like...
think men would do that as well?
No, we don't. So when a guy says, I'm happy to be single, it means that even if and guys do this all the time, they'll meet girls that'll go, oh, she's relationship material. When I'm ready, I'm going to hit her up.
Yeah. That is true. That is true.
Because they could hit her up now, but they don't, because it's like, I'm actually preferring being single.
But is that mainly of very attractive men? Because they might think, I prefer being single because I'm enjoying the single game, which might mean dating multiple women without the headache, and I'm using their words, of a relationship, because it does come with compromise, right? And compromise is putting yourself...
responsibility.
Yeah, and if you're compromising, you're not fully getting what you want. It's more a balancing act. It's a lovely one to do, and the end result might be lovely, but the pure definition of compromise is that someone else's needs are becoming equally as important to yours. So if you're a guy enjoying being single and still getting what you want, which might be sex, great. And so I understand in that perspective, yeah. But a man that isn't getting a lot of sex, I think would rather be in a relationship, because at least they're getting something from someone. Yeah,
like if he's a man that definitely, most guys want sex, then I agree. But then I don't think those men would say I'm happy to be single. They don't.
No, they might say it to save face, but they wouldn't mean it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for most men, when they say that, oh, I'm good being single, it's that even if a woman came along that I could see I could have a relationship with, I don't want to take on the responsibility of having that relationship, because how a lot of guys see relationship, and I said this on one of our reels, and most people loved it, some people hated it. Men see getting into a relationship kind of like getting a puppy. Like, you have this puppy, you love giving the affection, the puppy gives you affection, you love taking a puppy out, showing it to your friends and family. But getting a puppy comes with a lot of responsibility. You have to take the puppy out twice a day, right? You have to get the puppy things to entertain it, right? You have to take it to the vet, etc., right? The puppy looks to you for happiness, looks to you for guidance. You need to come home to the puppy. Exactly, right? There's a lot of responsibility that goes on with being a puppy. Also, as well, a lot of the time, for being honest, the puppy gives you a lot of affection, but your happiness is not the puppy's priority. The puppy's priority is to get its needs met from you.
Yeah.
So for a lot of guys, they're like, that's what a relationship is.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I can see that puppy is great, but I'm not ready to get a dog.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to get a dog. Whereas for the puppy, it's like, well, when I want an owner, it's like, I'm not going to take an owner until it's the owner that I want.
So are you seeing the woman as the puppy?
I'm saying how guys see relationships is like getting a puppy. Yeah. Because he does take on a lot of responsibility for a relationship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I agree. And a puppy looks exciting, and it's like the novelty at the beginning, and like, oh, it'll fix my problems, I'm a bit lonely, I'll grab a puppy. But then absolutely long term. And also, it's not always going to be a cute puppy. It's going to grow into a dog. So,
sure. Yeah, of course.
So it's going to slow down a bit in its neediness, but it's going to be there, and there's going to be different compromises, more expensive vet bills, all the rest of it, which is essentially very similar to a relationship.
Yeah.
I also think society has done men a little bit dirty, that men, in terms of being happy single, in that their emotional needs aren't getting met by their friends, whereas with women, we do have that support network usually.
That's true.
So when
That's true.
a lot of my friends who are guys who actually are, the reason that we're close friends is because they're great talkers, they're communicators, they're in touch with their feelings, all the rest of it. They really hate being single. And they might not even say it, but I
Interesting.
can tell that they do, because they like having someone to talk about their day at the end of the day. They like having somebody to plan to do nice things for and to have things done for them. They like a companion in life. Whereas with women, we kind of have a lot of companions because we have a lot of close female friends. I mean, I'm very blessed. I have a lot of female friends who I adore. So therefore, I don't really feel lonely when I'm single. And I'm also aware that that's a privilege that I have as a woman, because I could ring up one of my girlfriends, even if they're in a relationship with children or other commitments, and say, or text them, I really need to talk. And I know that they would do everything they can to talk to me that day.
Yeah, that's great.
Whereas I feel like men don't always, one, they wouldn't put themselves out there in such a vulnerable way to say to their friends, I really need to talk, because men feel a little bit awkward saying something like that. And then the man themselves might be like, oh, yeah, I'll talk to you tomorrow, or I've got this, I've got that going on. And sometimes women aren't as supportive of men being there for their male friends. So I think women have to take that responsibility as well. If I suddenly said to my friend, I need to sleep on your sofa for a week, a female friend, absolutely, she'll do everything. I would go there. If she didn't have a spare room, the bedding would be done, breakfast in the morning. She would treat me like a queen. If a guy had his guy mate come and stay with him for a week, I think the woman might be like, when's this ending? What's going on here?
Yeah.
You know, who is this bum?
Yeah.
Whereas, so women, we have a lot more of a safety network if we are on our own than men do. And I think that makes us a lot happier single, because our needs are getting met to a degree. Whereas I do feel bad for men. They're not getting their needs met in that way.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. But I remember seeing this study where it says that men just bond very differently than women do. So women will sit and they'll talk, like, we're here to talk.
Yeah.
And there's something that I study saying that men actually bond shoulder to shoulder, right? Doing an activity, right? So, okay, a couple of my friends who are like business partners, we'll go work out together and that's how we'll catch up. We're doing something.
That's why I think golf is so popular for men,
100%,
because
100%.
it's not really high impact.
Yeah.
It's essentially going on a long walk. I know golfers will hate me for saying that, but it's going on a long walk
I'll accept that. I don't
where you
mind
can
it.
chat. There's a
yeah.
moment of focus,
You have
and then
something
you
else that
carry
you're
on.
doing.
Yeah, you carry on chatting.
Yeah.
There's an end to it. There's 18 holes, I think. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? There's a bit of a structure to it.
Yes.
And then there's probably drinks afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. And if I need to talk to a guy friend, or to be honest, I do this with female friends too. If I know someone needs to open up, I'll try and go for a walk with them, because I just feel people feel a lot less put on the spot. And that's probably why it works for men, because if you sit and say to them, oh, how are you feeling? Men's defenses are quite strong with it. I'm fine. And that's because they feel like they have to be macho. They might not even want to identify themselves how they're feeling. So it's easy to put that barrier up. Whereas women, you can sit down eye to eye and say, how are you feeling? And they'll open up.
Yeah.
But because sometimes, women and men don't just fit in neat camps. Sometimes with women, I will say, oh, should we go for a walk? If I know she really needs to talk about something quite deep.
Yeah.
Because it's just a lot easier.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I think, I think it's just and this is generalization, but I think it's just a different way in how the masculine and feminine bond with each other. So when if you see two women, they go for a drink, they catch up, they're facing directly with each other. Even with guys, right? They'll be shoulder to shoulder. It's like they'll be here, but we'll be facing out, right?
With a football screen there or something.
Whatever it is, but that's how they bond a lot of the
Yeah.
time. So you know how you said your male friends, they just want someone to come and just talk to. This isn't a bad thing, but that's a more feminine approach in terms of a way to bond with someone, right?
Which they don't, which isn't
don't
getting
need.
met in any other way.
Yeah,
so
of
they can
course.
be
Yeah,
good guys.
so true,
It's not necessarily that they're needy. It's that they're actually quite emotionally available. And also when you say men sit shoulder to shoulder as opposed to eye to eye.
Yeah.
Often if men meet up, they do it in a pack, right? So we're all going down the pub to watch the football. Who wants to join the five-a-side? It's a group activity, rugby. It's whereas women tend to we still have our groups, but we'll have our one-on-one relationships as well. Whereas I think men's one-on-one relationships, think about if you make a big group of friends at uni, maybe it's the group that still is carrying on meeting up 10, 20, 30 years down the line. The individual friendships for men might have waned a little bit because they require more nurturing and more effort to meet up one-on-one and more vulnerability. But if it's all a big group and we meet up annually, you just pop along if you want. It's less pressure on the meetup and less expectation of what you're going to talk about in that meetup as well.
Yeah, for sure. You had a question you wanted to talk about friendships.
Well, I feel like it's really sad for society that people are so skeptical of platonic male and female friendships. And very few people agree with me, so maybe I'm naive, but I
Go for
like being in this naive bubble.
Go for it.
Because I have a lot of close male friends, more than any other woman I know.
Okay.
I genuinely am not attracted to those men.
Are they attracted to you?
I like to think that they're not.
What do you think?
I feel like they're not. If in my soul I felt like they were attracted to me, it would make me quite uncomfortable because it would make me feel guilty. It would make me feel quite sad. Like, do you know what I mean? You'd be a bit more on your guard. Either they're going to do one of two approaches if they like you. They're either going to try and play the long game where they pepper in little comments about how they do like you and hope you kind of pick up on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been in situations like that, and they're no longer friends because you're kind of like, we're not on the same page here. Like, and it gets a bit exhausting. It's like a tennis match. Like, even if it's only one pass every 3 meetups, it's still you're battering it where you have to joke as a woman, you have to be like, oh God, you're so lovely, no, and change the subject. And it's exhausting.
Yes.
It's not a real friendship. So either they will do that, or also if they like you but they're not going to tell you, then they might then it's just going to
become your friend.
It's going to make it a bit toxic. Like, they're going to sulk a little bit. Do you know what I mean? If you meet somebody else, or
they'll wait. Guys can be very patient.
Yeah, but they won't be it won't be sincere with the information they're giving you. Like, I wouldn't talk about another guy loads to my guy mates.
Why?
Not because I don't make them jealous, but because they haven't got the patience for it. With a girl, you can sit and dissect. He texts me this and then he texts me that.
I see what you mean.
He said this, he said that. And the girl, as girls, we've got infinite amount of time for our female friends to analyse, right?
Yeah.
Because we're talkers, we love it, we're natural detectives, all of that. A guy's going to be like, oh, just chuck it, like, you can do better. That's it. And I'm like, I want to talk about it. And I'm not saying they're saying you can do better because they think they're better. It's just they haven't got the patience to go through it all. So therefore, I talk about other things with guy mates that are maybe more like current affairs, more like it's more jovial, it's more playful. It's actually usually a lighter level, so it's deep with the female friends and it's a bit more surface level with the guys. But I think that that's healthy to have that light and shade, because if you only meet up with people, especially now a lot of us work from home a lot more, if you're only meeting up with your girlfriends and having these deep chats, life can feel very serious. Sometimes you need a bit of playful banter with the guys. Yeah.
I don't disagree with you.
But if you like hanging out with guys, some women don't like it because they're, I'm very lucky. I've got a lot of female friends, so I can always say, no, I've got my female friends. But I have seen girls who don't have as many female friends, have a lot of guy friends, and they get ostracized by women because they're like, oh, don't judge a woman that has lots of male friends. Do you know what I mean? Don't trust a woman, sorry. So I feel bad for those women. However, I'm not that woman. But I just think also for relationship advice, my guy friends will open up to me because it doesn't work both ways. They don't have the patience for me to talk about relationships to them. But if they're down, they want someone to listen to them, right? So they'll open up to me about their relationship struggles.
Yeah.
And a woman has a lot more time, empathy and insight than their guy mates do. If a guy's going through a breakup and they go to a female friend, the female friend will check in on them and treat them very kindly. Their guy mates might take them for a pint and they'll be like, yeah, I was there for him. We went for a drink. That's one solo incident. Do you know what I mean? So we're more nurturing as women, and I think everyone can agree with that.
Yeah, I agree.
But so I think it's really healthy for men who are in relationships to have female friends, because there's a fine line. Don't go and rat on your woman and moan about your woman to your female friend. That's not nice. But if you need a little bit of advice, the female friend, if she's only a friend and a good friend, will hold a mirror to you and go, do you know what? Maybe you're in the wrong. Maybe your girlfriend, wife, partner has a point. And they might actually sit and listen to it, as opposed to their partner who they're just seeing as nagging them. Their defense goes up, oh, we're always arguing. So it's really in a man's interest to have close female friends to talk things through. And if she's a nice girl and she defends your partner, she sees you just a friend. If she says, oh my God, get rid, she's awful, then she's not a good friend to be around.
Well, interesting. I get what you're saying. I don't disagree with you. But I think that the only way men can be friends with a woman is a woman that he's not attracted to her enough that he would sleep with her. That's the only condition.
So do all my male friends think I'm really ugly, or are they playing a game?
Maybe that they're not really, not that obviously you're not that you're unattractive, but that they're like, oh, I wouldn't go physically there with Amy,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
But the issue is most men would sleep with most women.
Well, I was going to say this. It's easy to be like, oh, not really their type, but surely when sex is on the cards, men
So,
are
like,
quite happy to
So here's my
times when you
question.
come into it, your eyes are shut. Like they'll just have fun.
So out of like 5 of your male friends,
Yeah.
if you put sex on the table, no strings attached, how many of that 5 do you think would take it?
If they were single,
Yep.
probably all of them.
Nah, man. You
No,
can't be friends
because-
with them.
But if they were
Nope.
related, but if I put it on the table, it's not on the table. But if I was literally like,
Okay, so a real friend.
text them, come. No, okay, maybe 1 or 2 wouldn't, because I think they'd be like, she's having a nervous breakdown. This is not an Amy's character.
No.
But let's
If
say
they
I
thought you were
literally-
serious.
If I literally was like, I haven't had any in ages, I want to have some sex with someone I trust. Do you want to come round? I think almost all men, if they were single, would do that. But that doesn't mean they're not a true friend.
No, I disagree. I think a real friendship means that you would, whether you're able to or not, you would both make sure it's platonic. Because the
Okay,
reason
maybe I'm being too
guys
harsh.
work with
Yeah,
guys
I
is
like-
because guys wouldn't sleep with their guy friends. They wouldn't sleep. That's why they can be.
Yeah, because I
platonic
wouldn't
friends.
sleep with, like, as in I would never send that text. That's why it's really hard for me to
No,
imagine the
I know,
scenario.
but
'Cause
would
I
you?
just-
So here's my question: would you ever sleep with them?
No.
Exactly. That's why you can be friends with them.
No, I wouldn't. It'd be disgusting.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing: in the nicest way possible, if a guy is not saying that about a woman, he can't be friends with her. Not fully. Not fully. There can be a friendship,
Yeah.
right? But the entire relationship is not purely platonic.
But is that because some of the guy, like I actually, now I'm thinking, it's only because it's such an alien situation to me. I've literally never thought about having sex with these men ever.
Right.
So, and I know as a man, you might think that, oh, that's really unusual, but genuinely as
No,
women.
I believe you.
I've literally never.
But they've definitely thought about it with you.
No, so that's why it's hard to sort of think, okay, how does this play out? But I actually think, especially the really old school like I think there's a timeline there. I think for most, if the guys I've been friends with for maybe over 10 years,
Yep.
I think if I said come round, actually maybe wouldn't, because I think they would feel a bit, because they know my character. Also, this is where it all gets murky, isn't it? My
Well,
character.
they wouldn't believe you.
I only sleep with people that I care about. So they would be like, well, what the hell's happening here? But let's
We're
say
saying
I
if
was
they
a girl.
believed you.
Yeah. But it's also some girls that can have no string sex,
Mhm.
which isn't me. That's why I think.
That's what I'm saying. They wouldn't believe
so maybe,
you, which is
actually,
why.
maybe with me.
So they wouldn't actually be answering the question. They'd be like, I don't believe that this is true.
Yeah, that's true. I think they'd think there was going to be like some candid camera when they come round. It's going to be
Exactly.
like, your ex-girlfriend's caught you.
But
Do you know what I mean?
the point is, though, they will come around. And if a guy would sleep with a woman, can't be friend. It can't just be purely platonic.
But if you're
because it
saying
means
to me
that
that men will
only-
have sex with somebody just for the sake of it,
Well, I said most men would sleep with most women. So there are
Yeah.
some. So there are women, of course, that
yeah. But
some men
but
would be like,
basically
I
what I'm
wouldn't sleep
saying
with
is
you.
a lot of women, the idea of having sex with a man we're not attracted to is actually almost a violation because of the
100%.
act, because of the act, because
Of
of
course.
it's you're receiving something.
Absolutely.
So we would be like, we don't want that. Whereas
Absolutely.
because a man's giving it,
Yep.
I feel like he can detach himself a little bit more.
100%.
And therefore he would be like, I'll get some sex and it'd be awkward well, he would know that the friendship probably would never be the same.
That's my point.
Yeah, he would know
Because,
that.
like, 'cause,
so
yeah,
does
when-
he value the friendship enough to forego that
not a re-
scenario?
If there is any element where if an opportunity came, he would cross a physical boundary
Mm.
that is not purely platonic. Because for every guy and his friend, straight guy,
Maybe I
and
need
his
to get-
friend,
Okay,
he
so
would not, just because it's a hole doesn't mean he would have sex with his friend.
no, this is true.
See what I'm saying?
This is true.
Right.
But they would have sex with women that they maybe didn't even find that physically attractive after enough drinks. I do
Yes.
think there are men that would be like, I'm really not attracted to that woman. The next morning they might be like, oh my God, but they were just really like, I hate the word horny, but they were like really up for it and just wanted something.
Yes, but
So maybe the guys wouldn't come around if they had someone they were sleeping with on the scene, because they're like, I don't have that itch that needs to be scratched. So I've got a girl doing that. So I'm not going to bother meeting up with my friend. It's not exciting enough.
they would, if he would sleep with her, then it's not purely platonic. Is what I'm saying. We're gonna wrap it there.
Okay.
But I definitely get you back on because it's so interesting, so
Okay.
interesting for sure. But we appreciate you for coming on.
No,
so
no
thank
problem.
you so much. We appreciate you. If people want to find you, where can they find you?
On Instagram and, well, actually, that's my main port now. So at Amy Elizabeth TV.
Amy Elizabeth TV.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Amy with a Y.
Okay. Amy with a Y has to be done. Has to be done. Well, Amy, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having
Guys, go give her a follow, give her a like, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next episode.